Dr. Eli Carter hovered weightlessly above the coral reef, his rebreather silent as it recycled his breath. Sunlight speared through the ocean's surface far above, dappling the seabed in gold. But here, at the edge of the Mariana Trench's abyssal shadow, the water held its breath. Eli's dive computer blinked. Asterisk 45 meters, 12 degrees Celsius. Time remaining, 22 minutes. Asterisk he adjusted his buoyancy compensator, eyes narrowing behind his mask. The corals below should have been skeletal, bleached by warming seas, yet they thrived. Towers of staghorn coral glowed cobalt and saffron, their branches teeming with damselfish. Eli unclipped a waterproof tablet, documenting the anomaly. Zooxanthellae still present, he noted, marveling at the symbiotic algae that painted the coral alive. But how? This reef lay mere kilometers from a graveyard of bone-white skeletons. A flicker of movement snagged his attention. Near the trench's rim, a cluster of sea fans pulsed with an eerie blue light. Eli kicked closer, fins stirring silt. Bioluminescence wasn't uncommon. Deep-sea jellyfish, anglerfish, but this was different. The glow rippled in patterns, spirals, intersecting lines, like glyphs carved into the water itself. His pulse quickened. He reached out, gloved fingers brushing a fan. The organism flared brighter, as if reacting. Impossible. Yet the lights continued, weaving a path toward a jagged rock formation. Eli followed, his rebreather humming. The symbols led him to a crevice, its mouth choked with kelp. He hesitated, thumbing the dive light on his wrist. Beyond the kelp, darkness yawned. Asterisk 20 minutes of air. Enough, asterisk. He slipped through. The crevice opened into a cavern, its walls studded with bioluminescent anemones. Their violet light revealed a cathedral-like space, ancient pillars of basalt framing a throne of coral. And there, coiled around it, a creature. Eli froze. She was colossal, her scaled tail shimmering like liquid silver. Humanoid from the waist up, her skin glowed cerulean, etched with faint iridescent markings. Long hair, white as sea foam, drifted around a face of sharp, regal beauty. A crown of twisted gold spikes sat atop her head, its jewels glinting. Her armor, gilded and scalloped like a conch shell, clung to her torso, and in her hand, a trident taller than Eli gleamed, its prongs sharpened to cruel points. Merfolk, the myth slammed into him. Asterisk no. No, this is asterisk. Her eyes snapped open. Gold, pupil-less, burning. Eli's breath hitched. She moved, a fluid lunge, trident aimed at his chest. He jerked back, but the weapon halted a hair's breadth from his throat. Behind her, shadows resolved into armored figures. Merfolk guards, spears bristling, their faces hard as the ocean floor. Surface rot, the queen hissed, voice echoing as if the water itself spoke. You dare trespass? Eli raised his hands slowly, tablet floating loose on its tether. I mean no harm. I'm a scientist. I study the reefs. Her gaze flicked to his gear. Your kind studies death. You bring it. The trident pressed closer. Wait, this reef, it's healthy. But the others, he gestured vaguely upward. I can't understand why. To help. The queen's tail lashed, stirring a current that rattled Eli's mask. Lies. Your machines choke the depths. Your poisons blacken the currents. Some of us are fighting that, Eli said, voice steady despite the adrenaline. He nodded to his rebreather. This, it doesn't pollute. No bubbles, no oil. We're learning. Adapting. Her golden eyes narrowed. For a moment, the cavern held its breath. Then she withdrew the trident an inch. You bleed the same as the rest, she said, but something shifted in her tone. Curiosity, perhaps. Why does this reef live? Because we sustain it. While your world burns, we salvage. Eli's mind raced. Asterisk symbiosis. Maybe their biology interacts with the coral. Asterisk, let me see, he urged. If we can replicate it. A guard surged forward, teeth bared, but the queen raised a hand. You tread where you do not belong. Air breather. She drifted closer, her presence a storm. Yet you carry no weapon but curiosity. a fragile shield. Before Eli could reply, a low rumble shook the cavern. Sand cascaded from the ceiling. The queen snapped her head toward the trench, her crown's jewels dimming. "The rot deepens," she muttered. Then to Eli, "Go. Return to your sunlit world. Speak of this, and the sea will claim you." The guard closed in, spears angled. Eli backed toward the crevice, heart pounding. As he retreated, the queen's voice followed, a whisper in the waves. "Tell your kind, the abyss remembers." Surfacing, Eli ripped off his mask, gulping dawn air. The boat's crew hauled him aboard, chattering about thermal scans and data, but his mind churned. Bioluminescent glyphs. Merfolk. A dying trench. He stared at the tablet's footage, the final frame, a blurred trident, and deleted it. Asterisk, they exist, and they're hiding something worse than bleach. Asterisk. As the boat motored toward shore, Eli gripped the rail, salt wind sharp on his face. The boat's floodlights carved a trembling path through the pre-dawn blackness as Eli anchored above the trench. His gear lay strewn across the deck. A prototype nano-polymer canister, sonar buoys, and a reinforced dive suit lined with pressure gel. The crew had been paid triple to ask no questions. Marine research, he'd told them. Not a lie exactly. He plunged into the ink-dark water, descending faster than protocol allowed. The rebreather's display flashed warnings. Asterisk depth. 50 m, 60 m, 70 m asterisk, but Eli ignored them. The glyphs from the cavern still burned behind his eyelids. Asterisk, they're real. And they're in trouble. Asterisk. The crevice loomed, kelp swaying like sentinels. This time, the bioluminescent glyphs flared instantly, guiding him inward. The Merfolk guards awaited him, spears crossed. "You return, fool," one growled, gills flaring. "I need to speak to your queen," Eli said, hands raised. "I can help." The guards exchanged glances. Then, with a flick of a clawed hand, they parted. Queen Nereia hovered at her coral throne, trident ablaze with refracted sunlight from some unseen shaft above. Her gaze was a blade. "Persistent rot," she said. "Do you crave death?" Eli unclipped a waterproof tablet, projecting a hologram of oceanographic data. "You accused my kind of poisoning the sea. You're right. But these," he highlighted graphs of declining oil spills, plastic capture drones. "Are humans trying to fix it? We're not all the same." Nereia's tail coiled. "Words. Your machines still scream in the deep. Your nets strangle. Some of us are silencing those machines," Eli countered. He gestured to the nano-polymer canister strapped to his thigh. "This seals leaks. No toxins. I want to prove it." The queen drifted closer, her crown's spikes glinting. "Prove it how?" A tremor shook the cavern. Sand rained down as a low, metallic groan echoed through the water. Nereia's jaw tightened. "Follow, and pray your lungs do not fail." She surged into the trench's abyss, Eli scrambling to keep pace. The pressure spiked. His suit creaked, the gel lining compressing. They descended past skeletal coral forests, through schools of eyeless fish, until a nightmare emerged. A shipwreck, its hull split like a carcass. Chemical tanker, Eli realized, reading the corroded Cyrillic letters. Sank decades ago. Noxious plumes billowed from a fissure in the seabed beneath it. A crack miles long, oozing black sludge. Merfolk darted nearby, sealing the poison with kelp paste and coral grafts, but the toxins overwhelmed them. One collapsed, scales blistering. "Your legacy," Nereia spat. "This rot seeps into currents, choking spawn grounds, maddening whales. We contain it, but it spreads." Eli swam closer, ignoring the acrid burn in his eyes. The fissure pulsed, its edges crusted with tar. The wreck's weight fractured the trench floor, he muttered. "But this sludge, it's not just ship oil. There's sulfur, heavy metals. From your wars. Your greed." The queen's trident pressed against his chest. "Can your toy cure this?" Eli gripped the nanopolymer canister. "It bonds to anything, creates an airtight seal. Let me try." Her gold eyes bored into him. Then, with a snarl, she rammed her trident into the seabed. The strike triggered a shockwave, collapsing part of the wreck. Eli ducked, as a steel beam crashed beside him. Asterisk, now asterisk air breather. Prove your words. He injected the polymer into the fissure. The gel-like substance spread, hardening into a shimmering barrier. The oozing slowed. A Merfolk engineer approached, poking the seal with a claw. It holds, they rasped. Nereia stared. A single patch. The fissure stretches leagues. I'll bring more. Teams. Machines. Eli's voice shook with urgency. But we need to stabilize the wreck first. If it shifts again, the rot will erupt, she finished. For the first time, hesitation flickered across her face. Then she seized his arm, her grip icy. Swear this is no trick. Swear it on your fragile sky. Eli didn't blink. I swear. The guard stirred, but Nereia raised her trident. Then you will see the heart of the rot, and you will burn it. She led him deeper, where the fissure glowed a sickly green. Eli's sensors spiked. Radiation? Methane? But Nereia halted at a cliff's edge. Below, the trench plunged into blackness, but faint, jagged shapes lined the walls. Ruins. Your ancestors knew ours, she said bitterly. They traded, fought, forgot. We do not. She pointed to a carving. Humans and Merfolk lifting a coral obelisk. You broke the first pact. Now, break the poison. A rumble shuddered through the water. The polymer seal strained. Go, Nereia commanded. Return with your machines. Or this time, the abyss will claim you. Back on the boat, Eli vomited over the railing, his body rejecting the toxins. The crew gaped at his blistered hands. Call the UN Maritime Office, he croaked. In the Ocean Cleanup Project. Tell them we found a leak. As the engine roared toward port, Eli clutched the nano canister. The polymer had held. For now. But on the horizon, storm clouds brewed. The Deep Ward, a UN submersible platform, anchored above the trench like a steel sentinel. Crews in pressurized suits scurried across its deck, unloading pallets of nanopolymer canisters and sonar drones. Eli stood at the helm, his blistered hands bandaged, addressing a team of engineers and marine biologists. Seal the fissure first, stabilize the wreck second. If those hydrates shift, a voice crackled through his earpiece. Asterisk, human. The abyss does not wait. Asterisk. Queen Nereia breached the surface, her crown glinting under harsh floodlights. Behind her, a dozen Merfolk engineers emerged, their armor fused with bioluminescent coral tools. The humans froze. They're real, whispered Dr. Lin, the project's geochemist. Eli nodded. And they're our partners. Treat them as such. The fissure site buzzed with hybrid activity. Merfolk darted around the toxic crack, applying pulsating coral grafts that glowed as they neutralized toxins. Human teams followed, injecting nanopolymer into gaps the organic matter couldn't reach. Eli hovered beside Nereia, monitoring a holographic map. Your coral absorbs heavy metals? He asked, watching a graph turn from blue to sickly yellow. It dies to cleanse, Nereia said coldly. A sacrifice your kind avoids. A young Merfolk engineer, Kale, bristled nearby. Surface tools are crude, he sneered, clawed hands adjusting a graft. This took generations to craft. You dump gel and call it salvation. Eli met his gaze. The gel is a bandage. Your coral is the cure. We need both. Kale flicked his tail, unconvinced. The alliance held until the tremors began. A low groan shuddered through the trench. The seabed quaked, cracking the nanopolymer seal. Eli's sensor screamed. Methane spike. The wreck's weight disturbed the hydrate layer. Dr. Lin yelled, her voice tinny through calms. If that pocket ignites, a bubble burst from the fissure, then another. Methane plumes rocketed upward, displacing water in a deadly ascent. The Merfolk scattered, but Kale lagged, tangled in a drone's cabling. Asterisk move! Asterisk, Eli roared, diving. He grabbed Kale, slicing the cables with a dive knife. A bubble erupted beneath them, catapulting them into the abyss. Nereia's trident flashed, severing a hydrate spire about to impale Eli. Your machines did this. No, the ship's instability did. Eli countered, righting himself. We need to vent the methane now. He radioed the deep ward. Deploy the deflation charges. Non-spark models only. Charges away. Spear-like devices torpedo downward. Eli snatched one, its tip bristling with needles. This injects a foam that breaks hydrates into water and gas. Asterisk slowly star. We need to plant them in the vent shafts. Nereia hissed. You would trust us with your tools? I'd trust you with my life, Eli said, tossing her a charge. The team split. Humans and Merfolk dove into the methane haze, dodging bubbles that could detonate with a spark. Kale grappled a charge near the wreck's hull, his coral tools melting under chemical heat. It's too unstable. Eli swam to him, activating his charge's magnetic grip. Stick it here. The metal conducts the foam faster. Kale hesitated, then complied. As the foam spread, methane streams diffused into harmless rivulets. Surface tech has merits, Kale grudged. Above, Nereia jammed her trident into a vent, anchoring her charge. The foam erupted, engulfing her arm. She roared, not in pain, but triumph, as the hydrate dissolved. 2 hours later, the seabed lay quiet. The fissure was sealed, the wreck shored up with coral and polymer. Human and Merfolk engineers hovered side by side, breathless. Dr. Lin floated near Eli, awed. The hydrate's gone. No explosions. How? Controlled deflation, Eli said. Human tech to split molecules. Merfolk precision to deploy it. Nereia approached, her armor scorched. Your bandages held, air breather. Thanks to your surgeons, Eli replied, nodding at Kale, who tended a human engineer's burned suit. The Queen studied the restored fissure. Once, our ancestors shared knowledge thus. Before the forgetting, Eli touched a nearby carving. Merfolk and humans lifting a reef together. We'll remember this time. Back aboard the deep ward, Eli peeled off his suit, wincing at raw skin. On the monitor, Nereia's face flickered in a sonar feed. Asterisk, your wounds are shallow. Good. The final battle comes. Asterisk, the protected zone? Eli asked. Asterisk, your leaders must agree to our terms. Or your fragile alliances. Asterisk, her image vanished. Dr. Lin entered, holding a coral fragment. The grafts? They're alive, filtering toxins, regenerating. If we replicate this, Eli smiled. We merge their biology with our tech. A real partnership. Outside, the first sunrise and days painted the ocean gold. Eli gripped the rail, the scars on his hands a map of what they'd survived. The United Nations Assembly Hall buzzed with murmurs as Eli stepped onto the holographic podium, his scars still pink from the trench. Behind him, a sonar projection shimmered, Queen Nereia's face rendered in liquid blue light by submersible drones. Diplomats from coastal nations leaned forward. Oil executives scowled. This isn't a plea, Eli began. It's a report. The Mariana Trench is now an active spill site, leaking toxins that'll hit global fisheries within 5 years. He tapped his tablet, and the projection split, one side showing the fisher's black plumes, the other, Merfolk children blistering in poison currents. Gasps rippled through the room. Ambassador Cole of Petronexus stood. This could be CGI. Where's your proof? The projection flickered. Nereia's voice, translated through Eli's software, thundered from the speakers. Asterisk, you seek proof? Come dive with me. I will show you the graveyards your proof has made. Asterisk, silence. 2 weeks later, the deep ward had become a floating embassy. Merfolk diplomats in bioluminescent sashes circled human scientists, signing agreements in ink and blood. Literally, in the Merfolk's case, their contracts etched on kelp parchment with squid ink quills. Eli watched as Kale demonstrated coral grafts to a team from the Ocean Cleanup Project. The polyps bind to microplastics, he said, holding up a glowing fragment. We can see them near river mouths. Dr. Lin grinned. Like liver filters for the ocean. Nearby, Nereia hovered in a pressurized water tank, negotiating with UN officials via hologram. The trench becomes a protected realm, she declared. Asterisk, no drills. No cables. Only joint research. Asterisk. The Russian delegate balked. That's 20% of the Pacific's rare earth mineral deposits. Nereia's gills flared. Asterisk. And 100% of our home. Asterisk. Eli intervened. The polymers we developed with Merfolk tech can replace deep-sea mining. Lab-grown, stronger than steel. He tossed a vial to the delegate. Profit without poison. Dawn deployment day. Eli suited up beside Kale on the Deepward S-Dive platform. Below, hundreds of Merfolk and human teams waited to plant the first coral polymer reefs along the fissure. Nervous, Kale teased, adjusting his armor. Your people might actually save something. Eli snorted. Don't jinx it. A shadow loomed. Nereia, her crown now inlaid with a shard of nano-polymer, symbolizing the alliance. The currents whisper of resistance, she warned. Asterisk oil tanks approach. Asterisk. Eli's radio crackled. Unidentified vessels, 20 clicks north. Then gunfire. The Petronexus ships were mercenary run, their decks lined with seismic blasters. This is a protected zone. Eli roared through the comms. Not yet ratified, sneered a voice. Ambassador Cole's aide. Nereia shot from the water, her trident slashing a blaster's barrel in half. Asterisk, ratify this. Asterisk, chaos erupted. Merfolk warriors captured dinghies with tail strikes, while human crews launched foam grenades to jam propellers. Eli dove, planting coral grafts as gunfire peppered the water around him. A blaster's shockwave sent him spinning, until Kale yanked him behind a rock. Asterisk focus, asterisk air breather. The reef. They worked in tandem, grafting coral while battle raged above. Slowly, the hybrid reef grew, its polymer base knitting the seabed, the corals purging toxins. Then, a miracle. A breaching humpback, drawn by the chaos, body slammed a Petronexus ship. More whales followed. Orcas, blues, their songs vibrating through the water. The tides fight with us, Nereia marveled. Victory. At sunset, the Petronexus ships retreated. The reef pulsed with light, its corals already spreading. On the Deepward S deck, Nereia addressed both species. Asterisk, today, the ocean chose. Tomorrow we build. Asterisk. As cheers erupted, Eli slipped below decks. On his tablet, live feeds showed global headlines. Asterisk, UN ratifies Merfolk Treaty. Coral tech to clean Amazon runoff. Asterisk, Kale found him. You're missing your own party. Eli smiled. Just starting the next chapter. He pulled up a blueprint, a floating city designed with Merfolk architects. Hybrid habitat. Your people can surface, ours can dive deeper. Together. Kale's eyes widened. Then he clasped Eli's forearm, the Merfolk equivalent of a hug. Epilogue. 1 year later. Eli stood on a sunset-drenched pier, watching human and Merfolk children race each other in the shallows. The hybrid reefs now spanned 7 toxic zones, and the trench was thriving. A familiar voice echoed from the waves. Nereia surfaced, her crown now studded with reclaimed plastic gems. Asterisk. You kept your oath, human. Asterisk. Eli tossed her a mango, her favorite surface fruit. We're just getting started. As she vanished beneath the waves, Eli turned to the horizon, where the first floating city glittered like a promise.